Attention. This is the Dan Lebatard Show.
No! No! Don't shut me up!
Dan Lebatard.
Are you professional or not?
Yes, I am.
Attention. Stugotz.
Oh, good for you. And how was it?
Oh, what a big man you are.
I feel like taking crazy pills.
This is the real bass.
It's like no one here has worked on TV before.
Attention.
I'm gonna kick your ass. You don't shut up for a second, all right?
Oh, my God, I'm sorry.
Attention.
I'm gonna go. Do you want me to go crash your lights? Do you want me to trash them? Then why are you trashing my scene?
I'm not trying to trash.
You are trashing my scene.
Bass is pumping.
Hey, Bill Nye, the science guy. You know what I do? I do the same thing you do. I listen to Dan Lebatard, and I turn it up loud. Crank it!
Oh, good for you.
Because I'm Dan Lebatard. That's the way that works.
That's my
Hawk's angry. That's the way that works,
That's
bitch.
not what Hawk wants to hear.
I'm Dan Lebatard. Perhaps you know my name is stamped on this show in the afternoon. I'll bring a whole damn entourage if I want to.
I mean, that's so rude. I can't believe it. It's so damn rude.
Oh, good for you. And how was it? Am I going to walk around and rip your lights down in the middle of the scene? Then why the are you walking right through? Da-da-da-da, like this in the background. What the is it with you?
Don't put those words in my mouth! Ah! Ah!
Here's Dan Lebatard and Stugotz on Sports Talk 790, The Ticket.
Oh, good for you.
Football history will join us before 7 p.m. The biggest gangster in the history of our beloved Renegade football program will join us before 7 o'clock. Can anyone guess who it is? We're not going to tell you who it is until he appears, but he is straight OG. Somebody writes in by text, did the signing of J.J. Putz really need to be reported in the Sports Flash? Trevor, an excellent point. Excellent point made by the texter. Go ahead and scratch that out of the Sports Flash. It is unnecessary.
It's Putz.
That's what I meant. J.J. Putz. What I call him? Putz?
You did, yeah.
Speaking of putts, let's talk some golf, Stugotz. Two kinds of putts today. He is two kinds of putts. Is Tiger Woods not coming out because his face is busted up? Is Tiger Woods not emerging for a press conference? Look, I'd love for him to stay silent, and if he does come out of his house, I would love for him to come out of his house guns blazing, Stugotz, and telling everybody to kiss his ass. But in the absence of that, we get silence. And is that silence, is he going to, do you believe he will speak at some point about these things?
Well, I think he's going to want to go back and play golf. And I think in order to avoid all the questions he's going to get at his first press conference, he kind of just needs to come out and do that interview thing before he goes back to the game of golf.
Does he?
Or else he'll get bombarded at the
Well,
tournament.
but he could get bombarded and ignore it. He could get bombarded and say, "Look, guys, I sent my statement. I'm not talking about this. I'm not." But do you think there's any plausibility? I mean, if he hasn't talked to now, do you believe that there's any plausibility to the idea that he hasn't come out and spoken or even been seen by anybody because his face is busted up?
I think early on that was probably the reason. I think he's just going to do it at this point when he's ready, wait for kind of everything to come out and unfold. I was reading something today that if there's even a hint, Florida law of domestic violence, Dan, and it's why I guess someone was theorizing today that's why he kept saying no to the cops when they came to
protecting
his door.
His wife, yeah.
If there's even a hint of domestic violence, they don't need any proof. They can arrest her on the spot, and they were theorizing that's why he didn't come out and do anything. Wanted to let the scars heal.
I don't know whether you guys want to talk about this or not. I know that a lot of people are sick of it, and I know that it's just so saturated right now at this point that people want to be done with it. But you feel how about one of the women coming forth and speaking to Meredith Vieira, and how do you feel about her saying that her relationship with Tiger ended when she asked him for money and he said no? How do you feel about all this? Because I got to tell you, and I don't know, I try not to be judgmental. I aspire not to be judgmental, and very often I'm not successful. Mm-hmm. But I cannot help but feel really dirty about what everyone is doing here. And look, this is not excusing Tiger Woods. It's not defending Tiger Woods. I almost don't care. That's off to the side, because I think that we can all agree that cheating on your wife, unless she's okay with it, unless you have a swinging open relationship, well, I think we can all agree that cheating on your wife and doing that to your family is not a good thing. I think we could all say by consensus that that's wrong.
What's turning you off? The fact that a lot of people and publications are making a lot of money off of this story?
No, I'm talking about the women specifically coming forth for nothing more than to get famous. That they want to reveal this, that they want to harm him, harm the family, they don't care what they're doing to him in their zeal to get toward dollars and fame.
What if I tell you, Dan, because a couple of these females are making this claim that he made them through text messaging and emails and conversations, actual conversations, that maybe he made them feel like he was in love with them. Maybe they fell in love as well. And he made them feel like they have a chance of being the next Mrs. Tiger Woods. And then the next thing you get from him is, hey, get my name, get my contact information off of your cell phone, erase all text. I never knew you. Think about that. If he spent 2 years telling a girl, hey, I love you, you have a chance of being my next wife, my next lover, and now she's upset.
You've been scouring these texts. You said yesterday you admitted that you read the text 4 and 5 times. Did you get the impression that Tiger was indicating in any of those texts love? Because you were reading text to me that said Tiger was asking her, hey, who's your new boy toy?
Yeah.
Love?
Well, not in the text conversations, no. But one of the girls is claiming that she was made to feel like he was in love with her and maybe she would be the next Mrs. Woods. And, 24 months later, she fell in love with him, Dan. She's upset.
Stugotz,
you don't feel for her at all.
I don't think that's what's happening here. I believe they just want money and fame. I believe that they'll do anything to get to money and fame. And they will. I don't believe it's women scorned. I mean, he's married, Stugotz. Going in, he is married.
Dan, that's silly. You're suggesting with all of these, there's not 1 or 2 or 3 or maybe all of them that he led on to think, hey, maybe they're in love?
But I don't know that's what. So you're saying all of them are doing this because they're scorned? They felt like they were the only one and they're all doing this out of vengeance, and that they're not doing this out of wanting to be on television and wanting fame and wanting money?
I think some are doing it because of that, and some of them are doing it because, yes, they feel scorned. A couple of them have apologized to Tiger's wife.
Yeah, that's convenient now.
I know.
Stugotz. Yeah, on television, right?
Yes,
they don't do it. They don't apologize to Tiger's wife by calling Tiger's wife, right? They apologize to Tiger's wife on television.
Well, how else are they supposed to do it, though? Yes, but they do it.
You could write her a letter privately. There are many ways to do it in which you're not cashing in on the doing of it.
You think that?
In fact, every other way except the way they're doing it is the way to do it without cashing in on it.
You think the private letter or the private phone call is getting to her at this point? No.
A letter's not going to get to her, Stugotz?
No, come on. She's on a boat somewhere, yeah. She's in Sweden. They're hiding.
Mike Ryan, Dana White's coming on with us today. Where'd this come from? The always colorful, always controversial. Okay, guys, I get it. You don't want to talk about Tiger anymore. I heard you, all right?
I do.
Back away from the text.
It's been in the works with Dana White for many months, and today I have not received a confirmation back from the UFC. He is very busy today, but I'm fully confident he will be joining us.
Why is he very busy?
I mean, because they have an event this weekend, and he's at the weigh-in today. So, but he's been on our show when he's been at weigh-ins previously, so I'm confident.
Okay, so Dana White, we're hoping to have him at 3:30. We always enjoy talking to him. Ha, can you get the sound of Dana White claiming I like the back and forth with Dana White, where Dana White claimed that within 8 years, and this was a couple of years ago, that UFC would be bigger worldwide than not only American football, but the world's football. Bigger than the World Cup. And we laughed at him, Stugotz, and he laughed at us. And typically when we have exchanges with Dana White, the president of UFC, and he is colorful, he is engaging, he's kind of unhinged, he's not terribly presidential. He is in a lot of ways a perfect representative for that sport, Stugotz, because he doesn't abide by executive laws. He does not abide by what it is that you think the guy who runs a company, a sports company, doesn't behave like this. He is Mark Cuban on steroids. I don't even know. Has there ever been a commissioner like this guy of any sport? You're used to your commissioners looking like Bud Selig, acting like Gary Bettman, like Roger Goodell, like David Stern.
Do you consider Vince McMahon a commissioner?
Vince McMahon, yeah. Vince
Some
McMahon.
of the same qualities, right?
All right, we'll find that sound for you and play it from Dana White next.
Dan Le Batard.
What are you people? On dope?
Stugotz.
You are a wuss, part wimp and part
This is Sports Talk 790, The Ticket.
Couple of people writing in, and I do love and appreciate, by the way, that you guys help us produce the show by reminding us of things that we should and shouldn't be talking about. But a few people are just texting us totally randomly, unleash hell. Mike Tomlin 2 weeks ago promised, Stugotz, that the Steelers would unleash hell. And this speaks to my point, Stugotz, that you only notice the motivational speech when it works.
Yeah.
Because, A, awfully convenient of Mike Tomlin to threaten to unleash hell before they had Oakland and Cleveland on the schedule. But the best part of that is that they lost to both of them immediately after he threatened to unleash hell.
Yeah.
Now, the sports fan loves the unleash hell speech, but there's how useless it is. Sometimes the games get won, but they're not because of the unleash hell speech. But you never notice it. Never gets noticed when the manager has a tirade and then the team continues losing. Sometimes the team wins and people point to that and say, oh, it's because the manager motivated them.
They were 6-5 when he made the unleash hell speech. So had they won those two games, and you're right, he probably thought, hey, I'm going to win those two games, and they're sitting at 8-5. He's the genius today, right?
Convenient timing by him deciding to unleash hell right before Oakland and Cleveland were on the schedule. Unfortunate for him, they've lost both. I got to tell you, while watching yesterday's game, Mike, how many sacks did the Browns have? Because while watching the game and watching how Roethlisberger was holding the ball, Stugotz, and I don't know whether this is so or not, but it's certainly the thing that the place that I went while watching it is that his reaction time was slow because of the concussion. Now, he always holds the ball a long time. He's a guy who holds the ball and lets guys, defensive linemen, bounce off of him, but not like he was holding it last night. And again, maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong here. I could be taking the result. 8 sacks. I could be taking the result and saying, oh, look, it's because of the concussions. It's because his mind is moving too slow. It's because he's holding the ball for too long. But
I think that's probably what's at play there. I think he kind of consistently has done that his entire career.
But 8 sacks, Stugotz, against a team that's not a sack team. It's not. I mean, Sean Rogers is a good defensive lineman, but Cleveland is not. Their defense is underrated. Their defense isn't terrible. Their defense isn't their issue. Offense is.
Dan, everyone's going to the fact that they don't have Troy Polamalu, who's a great player. But help me out here. As great as he is, one guy in that sport, unless it's the quarterback, cannot make that big of a difference.
I don't know.
No one's going to convince me the Colts are that much better with Bob Sanders than they are without Bob Sanders.
What do you mean they're not going to convince you of that?
I know. I lose the argument because when they got Bob Sanders back, they went on an amazing run. I think they won the Super Bowl. But I think he's out now and they're undefeated.
But this is what happened to them, though, Stugotz. I mean, that particular season, they were last in the league against the run right before the playoffs. Not 27th, not 23rd. They were last in the league against the run, and a last in the league team against the run cannot win the Super Bowl. cannot happen no matter how good their offense is. And Bob Sanders came back before the Super Bowl, and they suddenly stopped the run.
I know.
Throughout the playoffs, they stopped the run. So I would agree with you normally in premise, but that team seems to be a lot different when Polamalu is out there. That defense seems to be a lot different when he's out there than when he's not out there.
It's absolutely different. The Browns, by the way, have 32 sacks on the season. That's good. You have to keep in mind they're ranked 7th right now, but they have a game in hand and the rest of ahead of the rest of the NFL. I've seen this game a million times, and the Browns always get to Ben Roethlisberger. They can just never bring him down. And for whatever reason, last night they brought him down and he wasn't able to escape.
Well, do you think my premise is flawed? You're a Browns fan. You watch all their games. Do you think my premise is flawed that Ben Roethlisberger's reaction time was even slower than usual, even admittedly? I know he holds the ball a lot. He holds the ball longer than most quarterbacks. Is my premise flawed, and am I just saying that because I saw them sack him 8 times and he had a concussion, so I'm making a false link there?
I couldn't tell you. It crossed my mind last night because, like I said, I've seen them get to Ben Roethlisberger a million times and never able to bring him down. And the thing that stuck in the back of my mind was maybe the concussion has something to do with it. That team is very puzzling. I mean, I know they're a year older, but it's basically the same exact team on offense, probably a better running back in Rashad Mendenhall than Willie Parker because he was hobbled by injuries last year, too. So I really don't know what it is with Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers right now. You probably have the best point, I've heard.
Thanks, Gay!
Context?
Let's go now to No Source Insider Gay Glazer on the sideline for a report on how Brady Quinn's arms looked last night.
I can't believe they found Under Armour big enough to fit those guns.
Thanks, Gay! How do you feel, Stugotz, about Brian Kelly leaving the Cincinnati Bearcats, leaving them undefeated before the bowl game to go take a promotion, abandoning all his kids? You feel like that should be allowed?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah. Well, why not? It's a business. Why should he not be able to? It's his dream job. He's given great years to Cincinnati, put that football program on the map. I know some of his kids are upset, but what is he supposed to do? Pass up his dream job to stay at Cincinnati?
No. Coach the bowl game. Take the job, coach the bowl game. There should be a rule against what Brian Kelly is doing right now. Ending an undefeated season and leaving before the bowl game because he got a promotion and abandoning all his kids. There should be a rule against that. That you cannot leave your team. That your new employer, the place where you got your promotion and more money, needs to wait until the day after your present season is over before you can abandon your kids.
I think it happens all the time, Dan. If they were playing in the Capital One Bowl, I don't think it would be an issue. It's the fact that they're undefeated playing in the Sugar Bowl against the Gators.
I don't care. It should be a rule, period. Do something for the kids, man. Do something for the kids.
But if Notre Dame is giving him the choice, Bryant, and maybe he brought it up, we have no idea of knowing, hey, I want to coach my kids in the bowl game, and Notre Dame says, well, then you don't get the job. I give it to the Connecticut coach, and that's his dream job.
Stugotz, wait, you're making up a fictitious unicorn conversation.
We don't know if it didn't happen. We don't know if he lobbied. We don't know if he tried.
You really think that's what happened?
In
you
negotiations?
think an ultimatum came down, and Notre Dame said, absolutely not, you can't coach the bowl game 2 weeks from now?
I like what one of the kids said, is star wide receiver Ginyard, I think he said, our program isn't all about him, it's about the kids. We'll go out there, we'll play, we have 15 seniors or so, we'll be fine. Get over it, Dan.
Gilliard, right? Gilliard, he's very good. Who's the best wide receiver in college football? Is it Golden Tate? Is it Des Bryant? Is it that kid Briscoe from Kansas? Who's the best college football wide receiver? Who's going to be the first pick in the draft at wide receiver?
I think Mel Kiper and Todd McShay agreed that Des Bryant is the top wide receiver. He may have dropped a little bit because he didn't play because of the NCAA sanctions. Golden Tate's very good, but they have an absolute beast in Floyd. I think his name is Michael Floyd, the opposite of Golden Tate. He's not eligible to come out. He's a monster.
Thanks, Gay!
Bryant's still number one on Kiper's big board.
I'm sorry I asked the question. Enough, texters. Enough, okay? With, I need to say original gangster with an A at the end, okay? The joke is that I'm saying original gangster to begin with. The idea that I'm using that phrase is patently ridiculous. And so you don't need to correct me. Dan, you sound old. It's got to be gangsta. Sta with an A, Dan. The biggest gangsta in UM history is going to join us. UM football history will join us before 7 o'clock, Stugotz.
Can't wait.
We will talk arrests with him. We will talk sex with him. The OG, original gangsta. Not telling you who it is, but it is the biggest gangster in University of Miami football history. That's covering some ground, Stugotz.
Sure is, yeah. A lot of gangsters there.
UFC President Dana White joins us next.
Dan Lebitard.
It only takes one drink to get him drunk, but he's not sure if it's the 9th or 10th or 11th.
Stugotz.
Well, John has a reputation for being a bit of a swinger. Did you know instead of an umbilical cord, John was born with a bungee cord?
This is Sports Talk 790, The Ticket.
Run, D-and...
All right.
You know that I love Ricky Williams, and I'm in the tank for Ricky Williams, but he and I have had over the years, like many friends do, we have had our tensions.
Mm-hmm.
And he invited me to his wedding recently. Dana White, we're waiting for Dana White, by the way. We are filling as we wait for Dana White. UFC 107, Penn versus Sanchez, tomorrow night on pay-per-view.
So he invited you to the wedding.
So he invites me to the wedding, and I love his wife, and I love his family. And I'm getting to the wedding, and his wife has been integral in bringing our friendship back together. She has been, but I haven't seen him, or before the wedding, I had not seen him in a long time. And so I'm pulling up to the wedding. It's outside. It's on the beach. I'm pulling up, and she's literally getting out of the limousine, and she's in the beautiful dress, and she's got the bridesmaids all circling, and they're helping her, and she looks, just beautiful, just radiant. Okay, but this is obviously something that's a tense moment for her.
Sure.
And and off to the side, selfishly for me, but she, I don't expect her to be thinking of anything other than herself as she should be in that moment. And she's just sort of straightening out her dress, straightening out the knees of her dress, and she just looks up at me from the side, and she says, "Who's got the more throw-uppy feeling right now, you or me?" Man, that's funny, right?
That's good, yeah.
786-360-0790 is how you reach us. We're trying to find Dana White. Busy day for him. We'll get him on here at some point. We're going to talk a little bit about the University of Miami documentary. It airs tomorrow night up against UFC, and it'll be at 9 p.m. after the Heisman Trophy ceremony. Alfred Spellman is going to join us. He's one of the creators behind the film. I've got two minor criticisms of the film. And again, we made the mistake yesterday in the first hour of the show. We're not going to make the mistake again of spoiling it. I'm sorry that we were telling some stories from a premiere where we saw the movie, and I'm sorry that we did that. So we're going to be careful not to spoil portions of it in what it is that I'm going to say here. But there were two elements of the movie that I found slightly disappointing. Now, they were overreaching, trying to tackle a lot of different stuff in a limited time frame. But there were two things that I thought could have been a little bit better. And again, this is nitpicking because I liked the movie, I enjoyed the movie, and everyone we were in the theater with seems to have enjoyed the movie. In fact, I haven't heard very much bad about the movie. So this is nitpicking. One, I personally, because I have my biases about this stuff, would have liked to see tackled a little more the racial tension of how this team was viewed. If this team, I would have liked to see Jimmy Johnson ask the question, Jimmy, if your team had played exactly the same way but had been predominantly white, do you think it would have been received that way? I would have liked to have heard the participants talk about that. And secondarily, and this is something that's a little trickier because they couldn't get Warren Sapp. Warren Sapp wouldn't participate in the film, but I did not want to hear, and I love Carlos Huerta, but I didn't want to hear from Ancillary Canes, Kevin Brinkworth, unless they were telling amazing stories. If you're going to tell me an amazing story, I want it, and I don't care who it's coming from. But otherwise, I want to hear from guys whose face and attitude was something that you felt permeated the program, and the kicker can never be that, can he? The kicker, as much as I love Carlos Huerta, as much as I love that there was a Hispanic component, on those teams.
Don't soften it, Dan. You don't want to hear from the kicker during that movie. Any kicker.
No,
Dan,
if he's got great stories, I absolutely want to hear from the kicker. I don't want to hear from the kicker if he's saying things that other people can say or if he's saying things that are common. I don't want to hear him as a voice for the team unless he's telling stories that are amazing or making points that are really illuminating. Otherwise, I don't want to hear from him.
And that wasn't the case. I heard Jimmy Johnson say this morning, Dan, that he was disappointed, without trying to give too much away, that he was disappointed they didn't make enough of some of these inner city kids that Howard took in, that he took in, that Dennis took in, how they graduated from college, how they went on to do great things with their lives, that Jimmy was personally disappointed. It was all about the celebration, all about the football program, and not about all the good the university did and the coaches did, taking kids from the inner city and providing them with an education.
UFC President Dana White is about to join us here momentarily. We are waiting for him. We've been told it'll be just a couple of minutes, so we always enjoy talking to him. Let's move to that now. UFC 107. Penn versus Sanchez. It's tomorrow night. I guess we'll start here because everyone is obsessed with Brock Lesnar and some things that you said about Brock, Dana, and about his sickness and about not being sure that he was going to fight and making it sound really like his sickness was life-threatening. So what's the latest on your heavyweight champion?
Not life-threatening, career-threatening. It's definitely, it's going to affect his life in that, he's not going to, this guy's a professional athlete. This guy is a physical guy. He goes out, he hunts, he fishes, he trains, he's like a mountain man, this guy. And his career is in question right now, not his life. How much weight has he lost? Actually, right after he got out of the hospital, he was down in the 50s. He was down around 250. And this guy walks at 290, 300. And what's bothering him? Like, what do you expect to happen here? When is your champion, your heavyweight champion? And I think I could say this, right? Your biggest marketing draw is a single personality. When is he going to fight again? If he's going to fight again? Don't know. Don't know if he will, or don't know if he will ever again. But we're going to find out in the next month and a half. He was in the hospital. He had minor surgery. Then we sent him to the Mayo Clinic to get checked out. He's going to see how he heals up over the next month and a half, and hopefully he does well and doesn't need major surgery. If he needs major surgery, he could be out for another year, year and a half, or be out indefinitely. Do you expect him to fight again? Yes or no? Last Brock Lesnar question. I honestly and truly do not know. I honestly and truly cannot answer that question. UFC 107, Penn versus Sanchez. It's tomorrow night on pay-per-view. You know what a monster this sport is becoming. Dana White with us on 790 The Ticket. What did you think of our local boy, Kimbo Slice's showing in the Ultimate Fighter House? It's kind of amazing, Dana, the numbers that he put up on Spike TV. Were you surprised by the 5 and 6 million people watching that, or was that not surprising to you? I absolutely was. And here's the thing. You know what? I challenged this guy. I said a lot of things about him. I challenged him. He stepped up to the challenge, came into the house, came in, trained, learned a lot, came on to the finale, and he beat a real guy. He beat a real guy that night, and We tell you what, I'm impressed with Kimbo. I'm impressed with him as a person, as a man, and as a fighter.
What's next for him in your sport?
What's that?
What's next for him in your sport with you?
He just won a fight, so he'll get another one. We'll give him another fight and see how he does.
He can't headline a card, correct? He's got to be on the undercard.
No, he definitely couldn't headline a card.
Well, I mean, $5 or $6 million on television, Dana. You don't have a lot of guys who are doing that.
Yeah, but this is a real sport, man. This isn't about this isn't a popularity contest. It's a real sport. He's going to have to work his way up just like everybody else, no matter how many numbers he pulls.
Dana White with us on 790. What did you think of Fedor over on Strikeforce? I know I'm talking about all the heavyweights. And by the way, Penn versus Sanchez, it's tomorrow night on pay-per-view. If you're ever driving around on Saturday night, all these bars are filled with 18 to 34-year-old demographic, filled to watch this stuff. Penn versus Sanchez tomorrow night. But what did you think of Fedor?
The guy Fedor fought isn't even on the radar as far as the heavyweights go, and he had a tough showing. But I'll tell you this about him: when that dude hits you, you're going to sleep. That's for damn sure.
But you were unimpressed.
Yes, I'm not listen, I'll jump on the Fedor bandwagon when he beats somebody. I don't want to hear about who he beat in 2005 because it's almost 2010.
You'll jump on the Fedor bandwagon when he beats somebody and makes you some money, White.
Listen, I'll jump on the bandwagon when he beats somebody recently.
White.
Listen, you want to talk about guys that are good? You talk about guys like B.J. Penn who fight 3 times a year and defend their titles. You talk about guys like George St. Pierre, Anderson Silva. These are the guys that are the best in the world that continuously fight the best in the world 3 times a year. I don't want to hear about a guy who fought somebody in 2005. Hey, he beat Nogueira in 2005. Big deal. Let's talk about Muhammad Ali. He beat lots of people in the 60s and 70s.
You're going to bring Muhammad Ali back to your sport, aren't you? You're a marketing guy, White.
I mean, am I wrong? Am I wrong here?
This is what
the guy beat a bunch of people back in 2005, and everybody's acting like he's the best in the world.
White, everyone we talk to, though, every last guy, your guys, everyone from St. Pierre, all of them say he is the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world. All of them.
What's St. Pierre and these guys supposed to say? I am?
Well, they could
I call it exactly the way it is. This guy hasn't fought anybody tough since 2005. B.J. Penn is fighting Diego Sanchez. He's knocked off all the top guys in the lightweight division. George St. Pierre continuously beats the best people in the world 3 times a year. Anderson Silva, Brock Lesnar, the list goes on and on. And people want to argue with me about a guy who hasn't beat anybody since 2005. He beat Brett Rogers. Who the hell is Brett Rogers?
But everyone argues with you. Nobody agrees with you. Dana, your own guys.
You know why? Because I don't have them. That's why everybody wants to say that he isn't here. If I brought Fedor over right after the Pride acquisition, nobody would give it. Nobody would care. I almost swore on the radio.
Careful, White.
I was that close.
Who would you have him fight? If I let you have Fedor right now, and you've told us the story before of Fedor's people wanted you to build him like a coliseum, in Russia. So it's a hypothetical question, but you'd want to see him fight who right now?
Yeah, if he came in right now, I'd give him an immediate shot at the title against Brock. Obviously, Brock's out, so he'd get one of the other top contenders, whether it was Shane Carwin or Cain Velasquez or Dos Santos or somebody. Believe me, our heavyweight division has never been as stacked as it is right now. It's never been in the place that it's in. So believe me, nobody wants to bring this guy over here and see what he can do more than me. The thing about me is that listen, you can argue with me all day, but you're wrong. The guy hasn't beat anybody since 2005. Period. End of story.
Your opinion. The wrong opinion, according to Dana White.
The wrong opinion. Who the hell is Brett Rogers? What has Brett Rogers done? He beat Arlovsky. Arlovsky and Tim Sylvia knocked each other out 50 times. You know what I mean?
He beat Arlovsky in 10 seconds, Dana.
He didn't beat him in 10 seconds. It was longer than 10 seconds. He was getting his ass kicked the entire fight, and then he hit him with a big, wild right hand. Arlovsky has never had a chin, ever.
No.
Actually, Tim Sylvia knocked Arlovsky out faster than Fedor did.
No, I was saying that Rogers knocked out Arlovsky in 10 seconds. 22 seconds is what he knocked out Arlovsky in.
Oh, right, yeah, exactly. Tim Sylvia knocked him out faster. You know, not faster than Rogers, but faster than Fedor did.
Seems to me that everyone knocks out Arlovsky.
That's my point. Exactly. That's my point.
Dana White with us on 790 UFC. 107 tomorrow, Penn versus Sanchez. Now, Penn used to be in the discussion of best pound for pound, and then St. Pierre. See, every time we talk to anybody, any of your guys, Dana, they all say the same three guys are best pound for pound. It's Fedor, it is St. Pierre, and it is Silva. That's the list.
Yep.
That's it.
But you know what? Honestly, BJ Penn has changed his life, has changed his training regimen. I don't know if you saw the Countdown show. But if you guys didn't see the Countdown show, it's airing on Spike. It'll air tonight or tomorrow. I'm not sure which night. But let me tell you what. In the 10 years of being in the UFC business, okay, owning the UFC and running it, I have never seen a training regimen like the one BJ Penn's in right now. And without sounding goofy or condescending or anything like that, I've never been more proud of somebody as I am BJ Penn right now. This kid's been coasting on talent for 10 years. And now he's gone out and completely changed his life, changed his training regimen, and he should be in the pound for pound top 10 right now. No doubt about it.
I think the last time you talked to us, you were very frustrated with him because you couldn't even get him on the phone. You didn't think he was training.
Right. That was during the St. Pierre fight. And let me tell you, it's funny what an ass whooping will change. He went in there, thinking he was going to fight George St. Pierre on talent and coast, and it was a very humbling experience to him because nobody's ever done that to BJ Penn, and it changed his life, man. The kid is focused. He's training harder than I've seen any of our fighters train, and I couldn't be more proud of the kid.
Dana White, UFC president, with us on 790. All right, give us your non-Fedor, including top three best pound for pound in your sport.
Fedor's first of all, you want to talk about Fedor being one of the best heavyweights in the world? Fine, I'm with that. I don't disagree with that at all. To put him in the pound for pound top 10 is insane. It's literally insane. Top three pound for pound in the world, definitely number one is Anderson Silva, no doubt about it. George St. Pierre is definitely on his tail right now, and to be totally honest with you, I don't know how you wouldn't put BJ Penn up there in the top five. The guy has defended his title now several times. We'll see what happens tomorrow night. If he beats Diego Sanchez tomorrow night, he should absolutely be in the top 5 pound for pound in the world.
Spider and Machida, will they ever fight or no? They like each other too much.
Machida too. I like Machida in the top 10 pound for pound too. Listen, we're going to do the rematch with Shogun, and if he beats Shogun in that rematch and defends the title a couple more times, Anderson Silva is 1 or 2 fights away from cleaning out an entire division and some of the 205-pounders. So, yes, I'd see Anderson moving to 205, and these guys could possibly fight.
Can you force them to? Because they don't want to fight each other. They like each other too much.
You know what? I can't stand that whole I don't want to fight my friend thing. It's like Shaq not wanting to beat one of his friends on another team in basketball. This is a sport. People compete against each other to find out who the best in the world is. You're not fighting this guy because you hate him or you dislike him. You're fighting him to find out who's better. So I don't buy into the whole I'm not fighting my friend thing. So, yes, I'll get him to fight.
The biggest fight that you could put together, the biggest fight that UFC fans and other fans that would break all the records for UFC fights, that fight would be what?
It would be, that would be one of them. That fight would be huge. Obviously, a Lesnar-Fedor fight would be huge. To tell you the truth, we've had so many weird things happening over the last couple of months. So many guys have got injured. Midway through 2010 and the end of 2010, we're going to be doing nothing but mega fights with all the big stars.
Break some news on the show, White. Break some news. Tell us something big you got coming up here. So, tell us something we don't know. Come on, give us a little crumb.
Break some news. I don't know if you know this, but we're going to Australia this year. We just put tickets on sale. We sold out. Craig, what's the number? Is it 22,000 seats? 22,000 seats in one day in Australia. I don't know if that's big news, but that's all I got right now.
Is Fertitta over there somewhere kicking ass?
Yeah, he's over here. Where is he? We're about to do the weigh-ins. The weigh-ins are in 10 minutes, so he's probably in the arena right now.
All right, so he should be back at the office kicking ass.
You're right. He should be. I'm going to talk to him.
Dana White with us on 790. Pacquiao Mayweather's gonna bring boxing back. I know you don't hate boxing, you love boxing. You want boxing to be successful, and that one even you're gonna be excited for that one, right?
I'm very excited for that fight. I'm gonna go to that fight. They're still in this whole bidding process on who's gonna get it, whether it's gonna go to Las Vegas, Los Angeles, etc. I hope it ends up in Vegas. obviously for the Vegas economy and everything, for Vegas, that's my city. But I'm going. That's my biggest reason I wanted to be in Vegas, because I want to go to that fight.
That's not your biggest reason for wanting to be in Vegas. You got a whole Tiger Woods situation going on in Vegas.
You got a what?
A whole Tiger Woods situation going on in Vegas.
What's that? Why? What happened to Tiger Woods?
Secret.
The whole Tiger Woods thing is so ridiculous, man. Give me a break. That stuff that chicks sit around and yap about. Who cares? You know what I mean? Leave the guy alone. Let him fix his marriage and do his thing. Poor guy's getting terrorized.
That's how Lou Fertitta rolls, right? He's got a Tiger-like lifestyle, a bunch of mistresses all hanging around.
No way, man. See, that's the thing. When you're that high profile, man, no way.
Lou Fertitta.
Listen, it happened. It happened. He's got to deal with it, and everybody loves to run around and yap like a bunch of women. Crazy.
Are you married?
Leave Tiger Woods alone.
Are you married?
Yeah. I am.
I think you should wear like a sign tomorrow night. UFC 107 Free Tiger Woods. That'll be funny. Like wear like a little a shirt that says Free Tiger Woods.
That says Leave Tiger Alone.
Yes, like Leave Britney Alone. You should do that, Dana. Always a pleasure.
I will. I'm telling everybody right now that's listening to you. Leave Tiger alone, man. Leave him alone.
You sound like a bunch of women.
Exactly. Quit gossiping like a bunch of girls.
Dana, always pleasure talking to you. Thank you for selling your sport on our station.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate the support.
UFC 107, Penn versus Sanchez tomorrow night. BJ Penn versus Sanchez. We're back after this.
Dan Lebatard.
Shoot the J.
Shoot it! Stugotz.
Why don't you purify yourself in the waters of Lake Minnetonka?
Here's Dan Lebatard and Stugotz on Sports Talk 790, The Ticket.
Assemble your crew. I'll be outside.
They all did. Dana White gets it. It's one of the many reasons his sport, violence and blood being among the others, but it's one of the many reasons that his sport is so popular with young people.
He's a perfect commissioner for that sport. You couldn't have a Roger Goodell policing that sport. No energy, afraid to say anything. He is the perfect guy, or that personality is the perfect guy for that sport.
Couldn't do it any better, I do not think, than he does it. And I understand that he makes mistakes, and I understand that he's flawed. I'm not saying he represents every sport the way that you'd want him to. I say he represents that sport the way you want him to, because he's a little crazy, he's a little unhinged, and it's always good. He's also colorful and smart and fun, and it's always great to have him on the show.
As crazy as Don King is, does he represent boxing well?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. Exceptionally well. I'm surprised, Stugotz, as I see Brian Kelly all over my televisions, and I get angrier and angrier as this Cincinnati coach goes to Notre Dame and leaves his kids. They're working on a perfect season, Stugotz. They're coming off a game in which they just saved their season in the last few minutes against the Wanstash. And all year, and even before the season started, Brian Kelly was probably preaching to his team loyalty, commitment, sacrifice, finish the job, be true to each other, and all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. And so while he's exhorting others to collide and feel pain and to be tough, the moment someone at the nearest exit ramp offers a job with more money, he should leave for it, absolutely, but he cannot even be bothered to coach in the final game of that season, in which he has demanded that his players physically beat each other and everyone else up so that he could get this promotion. Mm-hmm. He can't even be bothered to stay around for the last game. That'd be pretty upsetting if I was a player on that team. You sold me a bunch of stuff, coach, and now you're leaving before the job's done.
A couple of things. If he's given an ultimatum, if he's given the choice, Brian, you either have to start tomorrow or you don't get the job. I'm just asking, Dan, because maybe that's what's at play there. Then what do you do?
That's not what's at play. They'd say that that's what was at play. If that's a different discussion. If Notre Dame forced him into that, then I understand it. But you're making up an excuse for him. Like, you're totally making up a hypothetical excuse for him. It'd be the first time a team had ever done that. Hey, it'd be the first time in the history of athletics that a team gave a coach an ultimatum and saying, you either take this job right now and coach us right now and ignore your last bowl game right now, or the job's not going to be available to you in 2 weeks. It'd be the first time that that's ever happened.
And a couple of things on this, and I agree, it stinks for the kids. But if any of those same kids had an opportunity to leave their coach and go to the NFL a year ago, if they were good enough to be a top 5 pick, they all would have left him sitting on his ass. They all would have. And Brian Kelly, what we killed Nick Saban for down here, and Butch Davis to an extent, was lying. Not interested, not interested, not interested. At least Brian Kelly throughout the process was truthful. He said he had interest in the job.
My point is that the kid doesn't have that option.
If he's good enough, he does.
No, the kid can't leave before the bowl game. Only the adults have that power.
No, I'm saying those 15 or 16 seniors, if any one of them were good enough after last season to leave Brian Kelly, they would have left Brian Kelly.
Stugotz, I'm talking about this season and what he has demanded from his players this season. Brian Kelly would have left last year, too, if these players had done this for him and his status last season. I'm talking specifically about what he demanded of those players this year, what he promised to them, what he preached to them, and he can't be bothered to coach the last game. Those players absolutely have every right in the world to feel betrayed by their leader and lied to by their leader.
The only thing I would say on your side of it, because I do disagree, but the only thing I would say on your side of it is if Notre Dame wanted Brian Kelly that badly, there was no one else they wanted, then yes, he has some leverage there to say, hey, I'll recruit, I'll help with the process, I want to coach my kids in that final
You disagree with what, Stugotz? What are you disagreeing with? You think it's okay? You think it's okay to preach to your kids for the entirety of a year, be tough, be loyal, sacrifice everything? You guys collide into each other. I don't have to do anything that's particularly hard or painful. I'll just sit on the sidelines and exhort you guys to collide into each other and harm each other. I'll sit over here and demand loyalty from you and toughness from you, but the moment somebody holds a few dollars out over here, see you later, I'm not even coaching the last game in a perfect season. You're disagreeing with what there?
Dan, you're making it over a few dollars. It's his dream job.
Stugotz, wait 2 weeks. Wait 2 damn weeks. You preach to these kids.
Okay.
Wait 2 weeks before going to take your dream job. You ask them to sacrifice their knee ligaments and all manner of pain on Sunday mornings for you. Give them 2 last weeks to punctuate their career correctly on a perfect season.
And I just said if he had the ability to do that, then he should have done that. But I don't know if he had that ability.
Stugotz, you're making Notre Dame place an ultimatum that's never been placed by a school before. There should be a rule, first of all, in the NCAA. There should simply be a rule. If you start the season, coach, you got to finish the bleeping thing. That's it. All you presidents out there who are taking care of all the other old guys in your fraternity.
Yeah,
all the other coaches, take care of the kids once in a while.
Whether we like it or not, and clearly you don't, it's a business to Coach Kelly, and it's really not to the kids. To him, it's a business. To Notre Dame, it's a business.
But it's convenient. It's awfully convenient that it's a business when he wants it to be a business, but when he wants the kids to play for him, then it can't be a business. Because rest assured, Stugotz, the kids can't turn it into a business. The kids can't start taking all sorts of money on the side and dealing with agents. There are all sorts of rules in place to prohibit the kids from treating it like a business.
Coaches. Yeah, none for the coaches.
It's bull bleep.
I agree with that. But Dan, I've been saying the kids should be paid for a decade.
But you're also pointing to this and saying, "Hey, Brian Kelly, go ahead, leave," and it's wrong. It's simply wrong. And there's no way to argue the other side of this, Stugotz. The way you're arguing the other side of this is to simply create some fictitious hypothetical that Notre Dame gave him an ultimatum ultimatum. You either take this job immediately and not coach in your bowl game, or you can't have your dream job.
Because, Dan, I would like to think, I don't think there's any question, you wouldn't even question that Brian Kelly loves those kids. So I'd like to think if there was an opportunity for him to do that, he would have done that.
I do question it. I absolutely question it. I think that all coaches in college football, almost to a man at the highest levels, absolutely do not love their kids and are self-motivated and do anything and everything they can in their own interest, even if it means trampling 18, 19, and 20-year-olds.
You don't think Howard Schnellenberger loved his kids? Jimmy Johnson didn't love his kids? We spent the last 2 days talking about this. Howard Schnellenberger recruited all those kids and left after a year to the USFL, to a league that didn't even exist yet.
They're almost all self-motivated while preaching be unselfish. That's what bothers me so much about the dynamic, Stugotz. Almost all of them are entirely self-motivated while demanding that the child labor, be unselfish for them so that they can be selfish. It's why I snap every time when we're discussing the dictator dynamic. There's no way that you can argue that what Brian Kelly is doing in leaving before this game, outside of your hypothetical situation, that if he had not done it, a situation, incidentally, that you just created fictitiously out of your mind with no support whatsoever.
No, and you're right, because I would like to think that if this coach had an opportunity to say that I want to coach my kids in their final game, that he would have taken that opportunity.
And people are writing in correctly. Notre Dame wanted him to recruit. Yeah, bleep Notre Dame. That's what I'm saying. There should be rules in there. I know what they want him for. They want him on the job immediately. Bleep Notre Dame. There are other kids involved here. And Brian Kelly was the leader of those kids, and he lied to them. And in a major either inconsistency or hypocrisy, he demanded things from them about finishing the job when they were doing the hard part of the job, which is the part that's painful. Not his fat ass on the sidelines watching everybody and demanding more of them while not expecting the same thing from himself. Hey, you guys be loyal. My fat ass is going to go get golden helmets and money over here. See you later. You finish the perfect season. I'm taking my lion ass out the door.
His ass isn't that fat.
It is a fat ass. Brian Kelly has it. Gay. How do we feel about the ass of new Notre Dame coach Brian Kelly?
Got a dumpy ass.
Dan Le Batard.
Well, congratulations. Continue good sex in the Big East.
Stugotz.
And, of course, Willie Mays.
Played by Denzel Washington, right?
I don't think so.
Here's Dan Le Batard and Stugotz on Sports Talk 790, The Ticket.
We should probably mention who Alfred Spellman is. He is one of the creators of Cocaine Cowboys, a movie about Miami and how Miami really was built upon drugs, and he contributed, I don't know how much. Billy Corben is the director. I don't know what Alfred did exactly beyond his producer role, but this You documentary that comes out tomorrow night on ESPN after the Heisman ceremony, Alfred Spellman and Billy Corben were the two makers of the movie, or the two big makers. They had a lot of help, so we will ask him some questions about the movie that premieres tomorrow night.
Been thinking about it a lot the last couple of days. Luther Campbell's role in the University of Miami. I know it was illegal at the time, Dan, and broke NCAA rules.
It wasn't, actually. It wasn't illegal and didn't break NCAA rules, but go ahead.
But what he did was a good thing and the right thing, in my opinion. Just, if that's what went down, giving kids money to get pairs of shoes or get some food, that's a good thing, in my opinion.
Well, it's throughout sports, it's happening, but here's the part that was bad about it, Stugotz. He was gambling on the University of Miami. He was making a great deal of money, and he was sharing it with the kids. And while you and I might shrug our shoulders at that, that's really not something you can have near your program. The gambling element especially. Never mind the hip-hop element, the gambling element.
But I think we can all agree, helping a kid who is making millions of dollars for a university who can't afford to buy himself a pair of shoes or his own jersey or a shirt or a meal, it's a good thing.
It bears noting, though, too, he wasn't a booster, Stugotz, so what he was doing was not illegal and was not against the rules. He was helping kids. That's what he was doing.
Yeah.
And because he wasn't a booster, because he didn't have a formal affiliation with the school, what he was doing wasn't illegal. It's like a neighbor giving a player money. It's a guy from the street giving a player money. One of the great secrets throughout college football is that drug dealers help these kids. It's one of the big secrets in college football, that drug dealers make money selling drugs and then help kids from the streets. Somebody writes in, boy, Dan, you really hate coaches. Did one molest you when you were younger? Yes. Let's move on. Alex, you're on 790 The Ticket.
I wanted to say I agree. I think the Cincinnati coach should stay for the bowl game, but just a couple of points on it. I think you might be assuming how he's coaching up his kids. He might just be basically telling them, the X's and O's and save all the, inspirational stuff for somebody else or just for the kids to do it themselves. And then, I forgot my other point. I also think you kind of contradict yourself when you say that coaching really doesn't matter. So really, if he's coached them up to play that well and up to this point, and if he's not there, they already know what they need to know to get on the field and play. What does it matter if he's there or not?
It's the symbolism of it. It doesn't matter whether he's there or not. The team's not going to be any less ready because he's not there. But in terms of me assuming things, players themselves are telling you they feel lied to and betrayed. That's not me making that up. That's watching soundbite after soundbite from Cincinnati players saying, that's not cool what Coach just did to us.
Yeah, they're pissed.
Coach sat here and told us for how long that he was, we were all in this together right up until somebody waved a bag of cash in his face. Scott, you're on 790.
Yeah, I agree with you also, Dan. I don't think he should leave. But I was just looking back. Last year, you were saying that it hasn't happened before. Last year, I think Michigan did the same thing with West Virginia's coach, Rodriguez. Right before the ball, all of a sudden he disappeared again, and decided not to coach.
No, I'm not saying that it hasn't happened before, that a guy leaves before the bowl game. What I'm saying is that Stugotz has created a fictional hypothetical that Notre Dame says, if you do not leave and join us right now before your bowl game and abandon your team, you can't have this job. I've never heard of that ever happening before. I don't think it happened here either.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to say that I think Michigan did the same thing, so I think it possibly did happen.
Well, I think Urban Meyer did the same thing.
A lot of guys leave before the bowl game.
Yeah.
There should be a rule. The president should get together and make a rule that it's not allowed. Guys leave before the bowl game, Stugotz, but it's not an ultimatum. Why would a school do that? Why would a school say, hey, if you don't come right now, within the next 2 weeks, if we will not wait 2 weeks, then this 5-year contract is no longer on the table.
I don't disagree, but then I don't disagree at all. But if there is no rule, and there is no rule in place right now, I agree there should be a rule, but then guys like Brian Kelly who get their teams to a Sugar Bowl, to a January 5th or January 1st bowl game, don't have the opportunity at those jobs.
All right, too bad. Then hire somebody. Okay, then hire somebody else who can start and do your next 2 weeks of recruiting, if the next 2 weeks of recruiting are that important.
But Brian Kelly should be able to be selfish in this situation. I mean, if he waits all the way to that bowl game, there are going to be some bigger names available. There are going to be some college coaches that are going to be in the mix unexpectedly, and some pro coaches, too.
He could take the job and coach the final game. Why are you guys creating this and making it sound like a situation where he can't accept the job, agree to it in principle, and continue coaching his team until 2 weeks from now and then take the Notre Dame job?
Well, it's like 3 weeks from now. But, Dan, think about it from Notre Dame's perspective. You hire this new coach. He's the face of your university and your football program. You're paying him a lot of money over 5 years, and the first guy to walk into the kid's living room is not Brian Kelly.
All right, Stugotz, let's do it this way, okay? Let's do it this way. How would you feel here if you were my employer here, okay, and you had a contract with me here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I couldn't fulfill the remainder of my contract because I had to go to the competitor across the street and I couldn't give you one more syllable of work. Not one more syllable. I immediately had to get to the other side of the street and couldn't fulfill my contract.
There are rules in this industry for that. And that's what you're asking for, rules inside of college football for that. There are rules that prohibit anyone to do that.
I'd like some damn rules in amateurism that take care of the players the way they seem to always take care of the authority figures who can be trusted less incidentally to abide by those rules of loyalty and unity and sacrifice than the same people they're demanding it of. It's annoying. It's furthermore, it's simply wrong. You can't leave Brian Kelly and Notre Dame to their own devices. You have to have a structure in place above them that tells them, hey, Notre Dame, it's bull bleep. Wait 3 weeks. Hey, Brian Kelly, finish your damn season over there, gasbag. Finish your season, your undefeated season, and then you can go to Notre Dame and put on your ridiculous green tie. You could do it in 3 weeks. You could wait 3 weeks.
But, Dan, do it the other way. What if you, when you were writing, now you always wanted to be here, you always wanted to write for the Herald, but what if your goal was to get to the New York Times? The New York Times...
I'll wait 3 weeks if I promised my family, which I'm alleging my team is, I will wait 3 weeks if I've promised my family, who has made sacrifices to get me in that position, to take my dream job. I can wait 3 weeks.
Or you don't take it.
Stop doing that. That's not what's in play, Stugotz. He could have had the job. He could have said, it's not in play. It's not an either-or situation with Brian Kelly. He could have said, yes, I'll take the job. However, I think it is my duty to stay here and finish this perfect season with my Cincinnati kids.
Yeah, I think Notre Dame would have told him to go bleep himself.
You do?
Yes.
You really think so?
Yes.
Because that job's so coveted right now? Because everybody's clamoring? Because everyone's taking deli tickets to take that line?
I think a lot of people
getting that
want that
line
job.
to want that job?
Yes.
So many people want that job that all they can get is crappy Brian Kelly? That him and the UConn coach? So many people want that great job that Brian Kelly is the best candidate. Really. Brian Kelly, who is last year's Greg Schiano, the new guy. That's how coveted that job is. Woo! Brian, I can't believe they got Brian Kelly, Stugotz. How the hell did they get the great and illustrious Brian Kelly? I can't believe that Notre Dame swung that. How'd they do that? Brian Kelly, who none of us had heard of 12 games ago. How'd they do it?
You're blasting a guy for advancing his career, for pursuing his goals.
I'm blasting him for betraying his undefeated team by preaching nonsense ideals that he doesn't adhere to. It's the same crap Nick Saban did. Same thing. You guys be tough. I'll go take the money.
Dan Le Batard.
Where do you think you're going to put a tree that big? Bend over and I'll show you.
Stugotz.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Kiss my ass. Kiss his ass. Kiss your ass. Happy Hanukkah.
Here's Dan Le Batard and Stugotz on Sports Talk 790, The Ticket.
Somebody writes in, Dan, you sound really bitter. Why do you insist on being the mouthpiece for all college athletes? I don't insist on being a mouthpiece for all college athletes, but I do consistently get irritated by rules that favor the authority figures and rules that are an injustice to the people plowing the fields, for lack of a better way of phrasing it.
But, Dan, I think a lot of people agree with you. I agree with you. But Brian Kelly didn't make those rules. You're just killing the guy. He didn't make those rules.
Brian Kelly could have a degree of honor that he expects from his players, loyalty and nobility, and say, you know what, it's important to me to finish out this perfect season after making these kids bleed and sweat for me. It's important for me. And he can make it a part of his conversation topic with Notre Dame and say, look, I want to get on this job, but no. They're so self-interested, and it drives me crazy. It also drives me crazy that you, the audience, in a lot of instances, not all instances, are just predisposed to side with the authority figure, no matter the injustice. And this isn't any major injustice, but that's some of the anger you're hearing in my voice, that there's just this siding with management thing that drives me crazy, because most of you aren't management, by the way. Most of you listening to this aren't management, and if any of this stuff happened to you and the managers had a better situation than the employees, if the managers, they were treated fairly, but the employees weren't, you wouldn't be okay with it.
No, I would not. But the thing I'm objecting to, and we have no way of knowing this, Dan, I'm sure this decision, I'd like to think, and if it didn't come into play, then I'm wrong and he's a jackass, right? But I'd like to think that Brian Kelly really struggled with the decision and is still struggling with the fact that he had to leave those kids.
He didn't have to, Stugotz. That's what I'm telling you.
But he left the kids, Dan. He left the kids. And I'm sure there's a part of him that feels badly about doing that. And I'm sure he loves those kids. I'd like to think he loves and respects those kids.
But are you aware, Stugotz, that, their previous coach kept coaching a professional team. He wasn't abandoning kids. Charlie Weiss kept coaching a professional team instead of going to take that job. Professionals should be okay with him leaving. Professionals, it is a business, flatly, not masquerading as anything else. It's straight business. And when Charlie Weiss coached at Notre Dame, before he went there, he continued to coach the Patriots. Didn't get out there and immediately recruit. Kept coaching the pros. Brian Kelly's got to abandon an undefeated season. Yeah, you could stand for something, Gasbag, with the green tie. Feel free at any point to stand for something. Stand for those guys. Stand for all those players. You went into their living room and promised them you would be there for them. And during their undefeated, perfect season, now at the very end, you screw up the punctuation.
You blasted Saban on his way out, and you regret doing so.
I'm not regretting this. This is, stand for something.
This is an NCAA thing more than it is a Brian Kelly thing. Because there should be a rule. And everyone agrees with that.
But sometimes there's a right thing to do, Stugotz, whether there's a rule or not. There's simply a right or a wrong thing to do. And you can't make the argument. It's impossible to make the argument that what he's doing is the unselfish thing.
Oh, it's completely the selfish thing.
He's doing the selfish thing. It's impossible to argue the other side of this. Lucas, you're on 790.
Yeah, Dan, don't you agree that even though what Brian Kelly may have done is not totally acceptable because of the reactions of the kids, which don't understand maybe, the fact that he's a professional, I think that what he did is within reason because he obviously doesn't have the power in that employer-employee relationship, right?
Yes, he does. He's got all the leverage. The job is his for the taking. They've offered it to him. He's got all the leverage.
But if he doesn't take the job offer, if you will, right at that moment, he risks not getting the job.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't risk that. All you say is, "You guys really want me? That's fine, no problem. Can you wait 2 weeks, please? I'd like to finish out this job. I think it's the noble thing to do."
And if their answer is no, then
it's a different discussion. But you guys are creating a fictitious scenario.
But then wouldn't you agree that his performance was exceptional? He did his job.
No, he hasn't finished it. He hasn't finished his job.
Right?
He's
undefeated.
He's not. No, he has not finished his job. His job is not over. They've got a bowl game.
But the season is over, ostensibly, right?
No, it is not.
They have a big game coming up against Florida.
They've got a game left.
Be interesting to see, and I was laughing, sorry, Ragnar, the Vikings mascot, came up on my television screen. Would have been interesting to see what Kelly would have done had they made it to the national championship game. What do you think he does there?
Now, that's a good question, Stugotz.
Huh?
Now you've brought up something that's good, because I bet you his dumpy ass would stay there then. I bet you his dumpy ass wouldn't be wearing a green tie now. If Texas misses that kick, and he's in the championship game, I bet you his dumpy ass isn't in Notre Dame today.
Now, here's one of the things, Dan. There is no way. He goes undefeated at Notre Dame, and he knows this. He makes the national championship game every single time. It has to be frustrating. You go undefeated at Cincinnati, you don't make the national championship game
Now
every
you
year.
asked an interesting question. God, I'd love to hear him answer that question. I would love to hear him answer that question.
Well, he's still there.
He would still be in Cincinnati. Why? Because it benefits him.
He may not leave, though, Dan.
Because it benefits him. No, then he would still leave for Notre Dame after that. He might take the job, but you bet your ass he would coach in that championship game.
Well, I don't know. You make the championship game. You're at the pinnacle. Maybe you stay. I'm telling you, one of the things that factored into it has to be frustrating that coaching at one of those schools when you can run the table and you don't make the national championship. That sucks for all those schools.
Jason, you're on 790.
Hey, guys, quick question, then a quick comment, then a question. I would say any professional coach that is highly paid is taking on a job. And that is exactly what he did. He took a job and and he did it. He did not finish it, and that's the problem. I agree with you, Dan. He gave his word and he preaches something and he doesn't, follow through with it. I'm a former Marine that, guys like us live by our word and our honor.
Well, here's the other thing, too. I'm sorry. The other thing is, almost every job in the world, should give 2 weeks' notice. Right. Go ahead.
And so my question is exactly what you guys have been kind of tiptoeing on, which is, has anything like this happened before, and when was it? Or the opposite scenario, has someone taken a job knowing they needed to finish out their bowl game or whatever, and then take on the
It happens both ways. Some guys leave their school. Some guys insist on coaching the bowl game.
What do you think of the other side, where Cincinnati probably wants to figure out who the next coach is going to be, and they need to recruit?
You think they want him out of there? You think they want him out of there these last 2 weeks? You think they're kicking him out the door? That they don't. I mean, why would the
I think recruiting is the most important thing in college football.
Okay, but why would the kids sound so betrayed? Because what I'm reacting to is a bunch of Cincinnati kids on my television saying that they felt lied to.
No, those I'm saying, but the Cincinnati side of it, the AD. What if he wants? Hey, maybe it's not that big of a deal to him. I want to know who the next coach is going to be. We need to get on the recruiting trail with that new head coach.
Rob, you're on 790.
Hey, yeah, Stu guys came up with a great point there earlier, but just bear with me because, I don't mean to be a real smart ass, but at the same time, I've heard him on numerous interviews saying that he doesn't know what lies ahead, and he hasn't been lying to anybody. I'm pretty sure he told his guys, hey, I got a good opportunity to do stuff. I mean, it happens all the time, but, I mean, his job is almost done, and it just comes like really, really awkward for me to hear you say that when at the same time I was under the impression you said that coaches weren't really a big deal. Is it more towards the pros or is it towards college?
It's the behavior. It's the symbolism of it. It's simply the symbolism of the leader of your team espousing a set of values, demanding loyalty. It's the same thing as Saban, Stugotz.
You've always been consistent with this. Even at the pro level, you've been consistent with the coach yelling at the player on the sideline.
But if you demand loyalty from the player, how convenient a platform is that to preach from when a game before finishing your perfect season, but Dan, you don't demand the loyalty from yourself?
I get it, and I agree with you, and I don't think anyone disagrees with you. But the kids, they're 18 to 22-year-old kids.
All the more reason not to do it to them. They're
Dan,
kids.
You're still old enough and smart enough and should be mature enough to realize that it's a business.
Then
because
why do they sound so betrayed?
Because they were betrayed at some level.
And that's all I'm yelling about. Alfred Spellman's going to join us next. He was one of the co-makers of this You documentary. We will lighten up the mood around here by talking about that You documentary next.
The greatest Miami Hurricanes of all time. Talking the Dan Lebitard Show. Ray Lewis.
I play with a controlled fury. It's either me be the hitter or the hittee. You have to play with some type of fury. You have to. And that's my game. My game is pure fear, but it's controlled fear.
Edrin James.
I'm one of the most complete backs out there. I do a whole lot, and you can't knock me. That's the only thing. I make sure I take that. And if I got any kind of weakness, I can work on that and solve that problem quick.
Michael Irvin.
In order to be great, you have to win the games you are expected to win, and then you win the games that nobody gives you a chance to win.
It's all about the you here on the Dan Lebitard Show on Sports Talk 790 The Ticket.
This is the part that pisses me off, Stugotz. This is the part, okay? The subtle way that people tend to side with the authority figures, applying a different set of rules to them than they do to the players. Imagine the reaction, Stugotz, if another guy decided before the bowl game that would end a perfect season, that he was going to take his dream job in the pros, make it a player, Stugotz. Make it the defensive tackle who doesn't want to play in his final bowl game because he's like, you know what? This is a business, and I need to protect myself, and I can't play. I can't finish this out. Let me just sit this out. I don't want to hurt my knee because I've got my dream job waiting for me in 2 weeks.
There's rules for coaches that don't exist for the players. It's only because the coaches are being paid and the players are not. The school feels they have them because of the education.
How would you like it, though? What do you think the reaction would be then if a player before the championship game, if Ingram said before the Alabama championship game, you know what, I'm not playing because I need to protect my draft status?
Outrage. What if the coach was okay with it?
The coach is never going to be okay with that. Let's move on. Alfred Spellman joins us. We've been talking about this You documentary here for a couple of days since seeing the screening on Wednesday night. It airs tomorrow night after the Heisman ceremony. I'm sure it'll do very big numbers here in Miami. It's 2 hours long. Alfred Spellman is one of the co-producers. Take me through some of this process here. We don't want to spoil any of the movie any more than we already have for people who'll be watching it for the first time on Saturday. So take me. The original idea for the movie came from where? You guys did Cocaine Cowboys. This idea came from where, Alfred?
Well, nice to be with you guys. Really, it came from growing up here and having spent plenty of Saturday afternoons in the '80s at the Orange Bowl with my dad. This. Having followed the team and the program for years and having attended UM in the late 90s, I remember Bruce Feldman's book came out, Cane Mutiny, and really kind of put a lot of the
the history and context, and in reading that, it really interested Billy and I, my partner Billy Corbin, who directed You, and we wanted to dig a little deeper. And after Cocaine Cowboys, it was just another great Miami story to tell.
What were some of the obstacles you faced?
Well, at first, we had approached the university about securing its participation, and they declined, and so we had to make the movie without it. And other than that, I mean, everybody was pretty cooperative. I think that Alonzo Highsmith really says it best in the film, and he said if this team, if this program was at a state school, whether it was at Ohio State or Michigan, Texas, they would have built monuments to this program. And I think that lost in a lot of the controversies that had erupted through the years, was just the absolute dynasty that this team had built in the 80s and 90s, and that's really what we wanted to recognize in the film.
How much of a hole was it in the film for you to not have Warren Sapp or some other guys? Were there guys that you really wanted, I guess I should say, that you simply weren't able to get?
When Billy and I, set out, kind of crafted our master interview list for this, I mean, in contrast to Cocaine Cowboys, where I think there's 8 or 9 interviewees in the entire film, this is obviously different because we're covering, a program that has so many different teams and so many different, so many different personnel associated with it. So we kind of crafted a master list. I mean, we ended up doing 40 interviews, which, for a documentary is a tremendous amount. And, I mean, there's people that we approached that we couldn't get or declined to participate, and that's fine. I think though that we ended up with a pretty good cross section of the program through the late 70s through the mid 90s.
What hurt you most? It's a 2-hour movie. You never get in all that you want to get in, and furthermore, the best stories are always the ones, Stugotz, where you leave things that hurt out of the story. What hurt you most to leave out of this story?
Oh, there's so much good stuff. We showed the extended cut at the premiere on Wednesday night at the Lyric Theater, and a lot of the stuff, luckily, will make it to the DVD and deleted scenes. But I think the quarterback contest between Testaverde and Bernie Kosar in '83 is something that I really would have liked to have kept. But we only had 2 hours. This could have been a miniseries. I mean, we didn't get to deal with the 01 and 02 teams, which we really would have liked to have done. But as Billy says, we'll save that for the U2.
Alfred Spellman with us on 790. He is one of the co-creators of this You documentary that is going to air on ESPN tomorrow night. Anything that surprised you as you went along this process? What was the most surprising thing, or some of the things that surprised you as you went on this journey to make this film?
I think something that, again, gets lost that talking to Jimmy Johnson about and doing a lot of the interviews is the incredible graduation rate of the program. And by the way, I do want to point out and congratulate Coach Shannon and the UM football program I see today. They graduated 100% of their 2002 class. They won the American Coaches Award with Notre Dame. So I think that increasing the graduation rate up to the 70s, was something remarkable that I think deserves a lot of credit, and was something that I wasn't really familiar with to begin with, but certainly something that's deserving of recognition as well.
Yeah, I heard Jimmy say he was a little loved it, but a little disappointed. Yeah. I'm sure you heard it as well.
I know.
I think it's going to go over great locally. We were at the theater the other night. Everyone loved it. How do you think nationally the audience is going to experience the movie Saturday?
Well, it's funny. In making the doc and now seeing some of the reviews and some of the commentary coming out, I just caught Glenn Garvin's review in the Miami Herald today, which just got posted, which I think is, I think that it certainly is a polarizing team, and if you love the Canes of the 80s and 90s and you love the program like I did growing up, this is the monument. This is going to bring back so many great memories for you. If you hated the Canes and detested the program, I think you might be reminded of why that was as well. But I think ultimately the success on the field overshadows it all, and really is a modern football dynasty.
What do you think is the fairest criticism of the movie?
Oh, that's a good question. I think that we worked very hard to create a balanced portrait, and I think one of the let me do it the other way around. Randall Hill was at the UM screening. We did a screening at the University of Miami at the Cosford Theater last night, And he got up after the screening, did a Q&A, and a lot of students in attendance. We had an overflow crowd. It was a great screening. And he got up and said, listen, he said, no matter what you think of the filmmakers, of the film, of the program, he said, this is 110% the truth of how it went down. And so that, to me, is the greatest compliment, that we could receive in putting together this documentary. In terms of criticism, I mean, there's going to be people who think we focus too much on the negatives. There's going to be people who think that maybe we don't rap the team on the knuckles enough for some of the scandals through the years. But that compliment from Randall really made us feel great that we really kind of captured what really was the truth.
You're fans of the team, though. I mean, that seems
huge fan.
That seems evident. It seems. I mean, you're not trying to be objective. You told a story that hasn't been told before. I told Luther Campbell after the screening we saw on Wednesday night. Finally, you get some context. Finally, you've crawled through 2 decades of sewage. Now, this story, you don't have to like Luther Campbell. You don't have to like any of what he was doing or any of what he represents. But finally, there's some context that portrays. There's always another side, Alfred. There's always.
Well, no, and that's true. And listen, we realize this a lot with Cocaine Cowboys. Both Billy and I grew up here in Miami in the 80s. We were little kids at the time, but turned to our parents and we were going through all this news footage, and I turned to my parents and said, "How could you raise us in Miami during this era? I mean, what a seemingly dangerous place to live." And my mom and dad's reaction was, we knew some of this stuff was going on, but they were shocked when we put together Cocaine Cowboys because it was, to put it the history of 25, 30 years ago in context. Really kind of, I think, shed some light on something that people might have known contemporaneously what was going on, hearing the news reports. I think the same thing happens here. With the benefit of 15, 20 years hindsight, you get, you certainly get a better perspective of the university, the program, where the kids came from, and its history.
Forgive me for a second. Alfred Spellman is with us. The U documentary airs tomorrow night after the Heisman ceremony. But in the interim, Stugotz has breaking news. Please hold on for a second here, Alfred.
Ragnar and Ocho Cinco have beef.
Ragnar, the Vikings mascot, is feuding with Ocho Cinco. Is that all you have? Do you have any more information on this story?
There's beef. That's it.
Okay, we will update this story for you as it progresses. Alfred Spellman with us on 790. And again, the U documentary, it is tomorrow night. Any reason you didn't interview any opponents?
That was something that we had, considered as well. Were we going to go interview Bobby Bowden? Were we going to go interview the Boz? Were we going to go interview Lou Holtz? And I think at the end we made the decision that we wanted the story of the program told by the people involved in the program itself. And so the documentary is really told from that perspective. And that was something that was very important to us. We have some commentary. We deal with archival news clips and photos and things like this, and some commentary. But other than that, we really wanted the story told from the insiders and really get an inside perspective on the program.
Again, Alfred Spellman with us on 790. This U documentary. It is tomorrow night. We're going to have the biggest gangsta in UM history. He's going to be joining us at some point before 7 o'clock tonight. But you want to watch this movie if you care about the University of Miami, and really if you just want to see the intersection of hip hop and race and sports changing, and really the Ocho Cinco that Stugotz mentioned. This is his formative years. He grew up in Liberty City, and this team, it's like watching his parents and grandparents interviewed so that you could see how it became what it became. One thing I would have liked for you guys to tackle a little more, you tackled it some. I would have liked some of the participants to have been asked how they think they would have been received if they had been a primarily white football team and done all of the same things.
Well, that's very interesting, and race certainly obviously plays a big part in the storytelling. We cover, Miami is the only city that had 3 race riots in the 1980s. I mean, between the McDuffie riots in 82, and 80 rather, and you have the Neville Johnson riots in 82, and then the William Lozano case in 89. Race relations down here were really just a powder keg for a great number of years, and it was the product of that environment that produced a lot of these players, these kids that came out of Overtown and Liberty City, and so that's certainly something that we deal with, especially at a time. One of the contrasts that we deal with in the film, the Cosby Show was the #1 show on television at the time, and this is pre-gangster rap, this is Run DMC era, so this was certainly the first time that the Muhammad Ali ethos was brought to a team sport, and I guess the Oakland Raiders were doing it in the 70s, but certainly for college football, this was a revelation for a lot of people, and I think a lot of the reaction was based upon that the first time seeing this type of the type of antics and dancing and celebration nobody had seen before in college football.
Dan, more breaking news on the Ocho Ragnar beef. Cinco says when he scores, when he scores, he's going to steal that famous horn and blow it.
How upset were you that Michael Irvin asked for $20,000 to be interviewed by you guys?
Look, I think that we had gone to a lot of trouble to make sure that we got as many participants as possible from the program to talk. Obviously Michael was way high up on our list, and ultimately it came down to was it a donation to charity, and ultimately Michael came through and did the interview. He was it was touch and go for a while whether or not we would get it, but at the end of the day he came through, and I think it's the film would be worse off without his participation. I really we're really happy that he ended up doing it because he certainly adds an element. I think a lot of Canes fans would have looked at us and said, "You guys didn't have Michael Irvin?" This isn't the complete story without it. So he did come through in the end, and we're certainly happy about it.
Ocho goes on to say he better give it to me or I'm going to MMA him.
How did you feel, Alfred? What was the most moving moment for you, or outside of Randall Hill speaking during the Q&A yesterday? What something that has been said to you by one of the participants or somebody else that has been most flattering?
It was just the reaction of all the guys coming together at the screening the other night. It was seeing Melvin Bratton there. It was seeing Brett Perryman and Randall and just just the thank yous really for telling the story the way that we did, and it was very gratifying to hear that from the former Canes, and I think that that is a testament to the film. Like I said, Randall's quote was certainly something that was very important to us, and we're glad that we got it right.
Are you surprised in any way? Are you surprised at all by any of the reaction that you've gotten?
Well, we knew it was going to be a polarizing film. We knew that, we knew that certain people, were not going to be pleased that we were telling the story, and no, I think overall the reaction's been really positive, and we've been really happy with, like I said, with the reviews that we've gotten so far. And ultimately, like I said, we set out to not really put our thumb on the scale. I don't think we did. We're unabashed fans of the program, but I think at the end of the day, we told the story as truthfully as we possibly could. Everybody's going to have their own take on it. Glenn Garvin certainly had his own take in the Herald today, this afternoon on the website. But, I think that, that everybody walks away with, and reacts to the film based upon their own preconceived ideas and notions of what the program was. And you certainly view that through the history and through, your own lens.
Guys, Ragnar responded by saying the only thing Ocho will be blowing is hot air.
Can you explain, Alfred, why it is that Miami didn't participate? I mean, I think I have some theories. I think they have post-traumatic stress disorder from this time period, and they just don't want to have anything to do with it. But what would be your best theory for why Miami didn't tell Warren Sapp, hey, go talk to them, or Michael Barrow or Randy Shannon, go talk to them. It's a good idea. We'll be able to get out our side.
Well, they told people not to talk to us. They told Coach Erickson not to do an interview with us. I think that was really unfortunate. But I think you're right. I mean, I think that the university through the years has certainly, being the first, to play this kind of football. I think they really are, got hammered in ways that that programs these days might not get because they were the first. And so, I think that post-traumatic stress disorder might explain that, but it was really unfortunate, and I think that like I said, I don't think it hurt the film in any way. I think that that the piece certainly stands on its own, but we certainly would have appreciated our alma mater's participation in the film.
One omission that I have to slap you on the hand for. I cannot believe I can't believe that you didn't put in the film that the bounty money was being held by the team priest. Well, how does that detail not get into 2 hours of the movie?
We've got Randall said last night, he turned to Billy, he said, I can't believe the 3rd and 43 play wasn't in there from the Notre Dame. I said, listen, everybody's got their own beef with us, but we only had 2 hours, or an hour and 42 minutes rather, so certain details get left out, certain things made it, but at the end of the day, it became it almost became a flip of the coin in the editing room. What makes it, what doesn't? Whose beef
is most right, according to Alfred Spellman? Who's got the biggest beef?
Oh, boy, oh boy. I don't know. I think I've caused enough controversy already with this film. I don't know.
All right.
I don't know if I want to. I don't know if I'm going to wade into the waters any deeper at this point.
Get out of here. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thanks,